Okay, so we're going to look at setting let off and also what's called drop. And you may have heard of escapement or let off. I think we even talked about it a little bit in our previous segments, but I want to show you outside of the piano so you'll see what I'm doing, and then I'll actually set a small section of the piano so you see maybe how much adjustment is required on a new piano like this when it comes in. I mean, this piano's already been regulated 2-3 times in the factory, tweaked as needed, and so it is kind of a refining process that they go through, and yet we still can make refinements and improvements, and that's just kind of the story of a new piano. There's no way around that. So with let off, or what some people call escapement, now you'll be able to see from my perspective here that this jack tender will rise up as I push down the key. It will raise up here and it'll hit this button with felt. And it'll hit it at a certain height, and then that triggers that jack to rotate and escape out from under the knuckle. So again, we want it to get out of the way at a certain point. We want it to get out of the way at the last possible second so that we have maximum control and power on the tone as the hammer interacts with the string. So that is let off. And so once it engages it, we feel resistance also in your finger. And after we reach the maximum height of the hammer, you notice it drops about 2-3 millimeters in this case. And that's necessary because then also if we keep pushing the key down, then the hammer goes up just a little bit. You see that?
Okay, very, very slight.
Yeah, it's really slight. It's maybe only a millimeter or two.
Do it one more time.
Yep, so there it is right there. And of course, I can actually accentuate it a little bit by balancing the action differently. See that second rise there. Drops, then it rises.
Okay.
So if we didn't have that drop there, that second rise would get in our way of the string vibrating.
Okay.
The string vibrating takes up space, right?
Right.
So we struck it. We need some clearance space there.
Yes.
But we also need that extra cushion at the end of the keystroke, which is kind of like follow through in a baseball swing or a golf swing. If you didn't have that follow through, it feels really uncomfortable.
So why does that second rise not hit the string? Is it just not powerful enough to hit the string again?
It's because of drop.
Okay,
as I
so
mentioned.
It drops enough that even with the second rise, it's not going to hit it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, so we're going to set let off also to be, we can't have it too close to the string or it won't interact so well. The mechanism won't be free at that point and it would just kind of bobble. And I'm sure you've all played a bobbling hammer piano now and again, especially on an upright or something. But so I'm going to, outside of the piano, I want to demonstrate here a little bit. If you can see, there's a point where this raises, and if I hold two at the same time really carefully, you see they reach the same height. Okay, now I'm going to stick that in the piano. I'm going to change that adjustment on the C. I feel like we learn a lot when we go to extremes.
Sure.
When we're doing these adjustments to see, okay, if I set it too far this way, what's the effect? If I set it too far the other way, what's the advantages? What's the drawbacks? So there was our sound. So that strike point got off there.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to look in here at this C. Okay. Now you'll be able to hear this as well as see it, but you'll see that let off point is just below the string, about 2 millimeters or so, or 1/16 of an inch, or what have you.
Okay.
Okay, and that's actually good. I probably wouldn't tweak this one too much.
Okay.
But I'm going to run it all. I'm going to run the let off adjustment. This button, I'm going to run it higher to where we block up against the string.
Okay. So just to demonstrate.
This is the equivalent of having no let off.
So that's without pedal, or that's with pedal?
Either way.
So that's without pedal.
Yeah, I'm kind of limited in the effective articulations that I can use in this case.
Yeah, totally.
Right. So, when I'm reworking a piano in the shop, I'll have, when you start out, all the hammers will be blocking against the strings. I like to start out that way. It's handy to align them. So I've learned how to kind of play with it blocking and not have it be too, but it's not as fun, for sure, to say the least. So
And
that's the
Can
extreme.
you, just to interrupt here for a second, I remember you saying at my house, you said for a concert pianist level, you want that let off to be extremely minimal. What was the reasoning behind that? Why do you want it to be as close to the string? Does it just give you a greater sense of control?
Well, mechanically you can get away with it through the various humidity changes and season changes, temperature changes you might have in a hall, because those pianos are seen a lot more regularly by the technician. So if the weather changed and it caused that adjustment to actually then be blocking against the string, it's really quick before a concert to tweak it, no problem, right?
Okay.
But in a home, we're usually not servicing the piano right before you play it every time.
Right.
So it's better to have a little bit of little more safety factor in there for changing conditions.
And too much let off, so the let off dropping way far down or too early, what would that be?
So let's do that, okay? And I'll have you decide whether it matters or not. So now you're gonna have to play a one-note song though. So
Sure.
if you can come up with something. Okay, so right now I've got it set where I would want to. So I'm gonna give you ground zero to start from. Okay.
Okay, so it's just on middle C.
Okay.
So that feels good.
Okay. Yeah, repetition is definitely affected.
Okay.
Very, very soft play is affected. Right.
So this is where the ideal setting of where you'd want it,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if it's bobbling a little bit, which I caught a little bit of a bobble, you need to either play differently or or we weaken the spring a little bit, or we could back it off a little bit from there.
And bobbling would be ba-bom, where
Yeah,
it's
where it
double
double
striking.
strikes the string.
Yeah, I've been playing this. My piano needs one note adjusted because every time I play this Paganini Etude, it goes a little bit on my piano at home. So yeah, this is a perfect
It's
example
bobbling.
of that. So
So, and there's a couple reasons that it might bobble, but this could be a main one that you find in a grand piano. So now I'm going to run that way down. And actually, we're going to go really extreme for you, Josh.
okay,
Okay, so now you can see from my view there, that's about, is it half an inch, I want to say, almost, from the string? It's quite a significant difference. Not quite half an inch, but it's pretty far from the string. It's about, it's about that far from the string. So now I'd like you to play your softest
okay.
note. That's pretty soft.
Yeah, so it actually, see, so this is soft. I'm actually not able to throw it hard enough. And if I need to, you say, okay, I just got to throw it harder, but it's not going to be as soft as that. So why is that? Is it because it's tripping out too soon?
It's tripping out too soon.
Okay.
You're no longer have control pushing that hammer towards the string.
Okay.
There's not enough juice in the rocket to reach its height.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that is so weird. It just feels blocked right there. So it feels like you're going down, and it's not where you're usually pushing through, so that escapement or let off, it still has enough like impetus, even if I go down and then give it something, but here,
no way.
Do it.
Yeah.
So it's just because it's set so low, it doesn't have enough. Okay, that makes sense.
It limits your soft play, your
Okay.
control and soft play.
Yeah.
But that's not all it does. So play something forte and listen to the tone quality of the note.
Okay. So very punchy.
Okay.
And you can almost hear that thud, like boom. I don't know if that's what you're going for.
Well, let me tweak it where it's going to be, and then we'll hear from the audio, and you'll observe how it changes.
Okay.
I mean, the piano in general is pretty punchy right now because we've beefed it up, right? And we haven't needled it down. And even if you don't remember what it sounded like, the microphones won't lie.
Yeah. Well, the best I can edit this down. So what effect were you going for? Because you said, I want to hear what your thoughts are. What, with that last adjustment being
I
way
just
too
wanted
low?
to see what it felt like to you and how you described that feeling when the let-off's too far away.
Okay, yeah.
Because when you work with something so closely and you work on it all the time, you're hypersensitive to it, right?
Uh-huh.
And you pick up nuance where other people might not pick up nuance. So to me as a technician, it's important for me to know, is this truly important to the pianist, or am I just fussing over something I don't need to, right?
Sure.
So that's
Yeah.
why I love this interaction that we're having
Okay,
right now.
sure, yeah.
Okay, listen to the tone of that now. I'll play something forte.
Okay, is this back to normal
Back to
spec?
normal. Yep, that's
Okay.
correct.
So I'm able to immediately play way softer without all those ghost notes. And then, I mean, I can get a harsh sound, but I'm not sure I hear a huge difference with the tone, but
Okay.
I can definitely feel it in my finger.
What I notice, like if I set a whole piano, is that the tone is a little more intense when the let-off is closer.
Oh, okay. That would make sense.
Yeah, a little bit brighter to my perception.
Sure.
So anyway, but
Yeah.
but if I'm imagining it,
No, I'm sure that's
Better
it.
tell me
But
now.
it's subtle. I mean, this, and it may not even come through on the video, because as you guys all saw, I wasn't really even keen to that. But I was definitely keen to the fact that it was feeling horrible, especially in soft playing. So I think maybe if we had a bigger reference of, let's do this whole section of the piano down and then back up, it would make more of a noticeable difference.
For sure. But just that demonstration, you can tell like it does limit your soft play for sure. Your control and soft play.
Yeah.
And here's one that I'm setting in the section. Now this one's just too close. It's still, I have escapement, but it's easier to make it bobble if you don't follow through on the key.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you have a piano that's bobbling, you can eliminate it by just being sensitive to just kind of accelerating the very end of your stroke, just enough, or coming down to the bottom of the key enough
Right.
that it's going to settle down and it's not going to come and hit the string again. So I'm going to go ahead and just quickly set the rest of this section, and you should be able to see from my angle somewhat what's going on. So I just tweak those buttons, just a turn or two. And in general, on this piano, they were all a little bit too close for the most part as I went through and set the rest of it earlier today. So that will have an effect on the tone. I know it will when we're voicing, Josh. By making this consistent, it'll round out the sound a little bit
Okay.
from note to note. So it won't be quite as intense, even though we still have a lot of work to do with voicing and needling.
Sure.
Now, some technicians will use some type of gauge to look at. I just do it by eye and by feel. I can play to that resistance in the key and then push through like Josh was doing. And then I can also go very lightly and see that it doesn't hit the string. And then I increase my pressure just a little bit, and I want it to just kind of kiss the note.
Sure.
I'll be quiet and you'll hear that for a sec. So you could know really quickly if let off is good by doing what Josh did, which is push down to this shelf that we feel in the action and then pushing through, and it should be pretty uniform in sound and you should be able to get a sound.
Great. So just to recap for us who don't do this much, too little of let off, you'll get double strikes and bobbles, and too much, you'll get a mushier tone and you'll feel like you're more out of control, like you can't actually play soft enough.
Right.
Is that a good recap?
Yeah, it
Anything
is.
else you'd add?
I might add that if your hammers are blocking against the strings, you might still be able to force them. I have a really strong customer who's a really strong pianist, and sometimes he'll have hammers that are blocking and he doesn't notice because he's a very strong player.
Uh-huh.
You could force it through, but you could also do damage to the parts
Okay.
when it's blocking against the string. So good to have it set correctly.
Perfect.
Okay, so I think we've got it. I did the rest of the piano earlier. So we've got let off set where we want. And then I
Okay.
wanted to show you drop really quickly.
Okay.
And I think this is where Josh got bored last night, so we'll see where this takes us. But
Yeah, I never know because I've read on piano technician forums just for fun because I'm a geek. I never know what they say. Oh, playing through let off, or how much drop, how much let off. I don't know the difference between those, so I'm glad we're going to clarify that here.
yeah, so this section that I said of drop, I want these hammers to all have a similar drop because what happens is, I tried to explain this a little bit last night, but I understand it's kind of, takes a second to wrap your head around, which is that the thing that creates which allows the hammer to fall that distance. Let's look again at our note number 1 here, which is A0, not A1. So we're looking right underneath this hammer flange is that metal screw.
Okay.
Okay, and then if I look from my angle, it's right here. So this leather pad will come up and hit that screw, right? When I push the key, it'll come up and it'll hit, and I'll feel resistance when it hits that.
Okay.
The jack will escape, but this repetition lever that we've been talking about, this wooden beam, gets stopped in motion right at that point so that the hammer continues, hits the string, and then it comes off the jack and it falls just a little bit, falls right back onto that lever, okay?
Okay.
So by turning that screw down, I can increase the amount that the hammer falls or decrease it by turning it up.
Okay. And what would be the purpose of more or less drop?
Okay, so if I turn this down significantly, I'm gonna just overdo it here. Let's look at this. That hammer's gonna clunk down there. Now that's gonna feel just a little bit goofy when you're playing. It's gonna feel a little bit not quite as tight.
Sure.
Okay, and also, but you also might feel that the piano's heavier because we're coming into contact with that screw a lot sooner in the keystroke.
Okay.
And then we're pushing against this spring that's under here. We're pushing against the force of it sooner. So we're feeling the spring more in our keystroke right at the end of it.
Okay.
So
That's hard to wrap
Josh is
your
looking
brain
at
around.
me.
I'm not sure I understand.
It feels bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it feels bad. It doesn't feel very clean. So we're gonna minimize the drop, but we still have to have enough so that it doesn't, so that the hammer doesn't get in the way of vibration of the strings.
Sure, it doesn't double strike or block.
Right.
Okay. So drop and let off are different things, but they're married to each other. So let off is just the act of coming down. Drop is how much?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's going to start to drop where let off occurred at its highest point. So we can change that. So this hammer here is dropping a little bit farther, and it's going to have a different touch to it. It's going to have a different feel. So
How would you describe the differences if there's more or less drop?
if there's more drop, it feels clunkier, just a little more clunky, possibly a little heavier.
Okay, and if it's too little, it just it'll block.
Yeah, it'll just interfere more. I don't know that you'll perceive it if it's too little.
Okay.
You just have other issues. So, that it's a trade-off again, because I'm taking resistance out of the action by raising that drop as high as I can.
Sure.
If I lower it, for instance, that C that you were playing, you were still getting a little bit of bobbling. Maybe if I lowered the drop, I might kind of cure that a little bit, but it is a trade-off.
Yeah, it might feel just a touch heavier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the way this is often said is you'll just kind of compare the hammers, and it's kind of interesting. So say that they're all in a line here, they're all kind of doing something similar. Watch if I run this screw while I'm holding the keys down, you see that hammer lower.
Okay, yeah.
You see that?
Uh-huh.
So, and then it'll come back up as I turn that screw. So I really am doing something. So let me just finish up this section. And I don't know, I mean, it does affect the feel, but it's very minor. All these things are usually, it's a collective result, right?
Exactly. Yeah, sometimes there's been an adjustment made on my piano that I feel I was like, I don't know if that was it, but now it feels so much better, and it has a result that we may not have been targeting necessarily, but all the other collective work, along with that one little adjustment, finally was the catalyst for, okay, this feels right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
complex stuff.
I'm just going to take one closer look at this, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Just make sure we've got our let off right on this B. Just want to bring that down just a little bit. I think we're set.
Okay. Great.